Claudio, I'm glad to get you on the podcast. How are things in Pittsburgh?
Everything's good. Everything's good. Thank God. A little muggy today after the rain, but everything's really good. No complaints, and I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Vincent, for connecting us.
I'm excited about that. Yeah, in all transparency, I think we have to let people know because some people may think we have a connection because of baseball. We might have crossed paths that way or something, but what we have to let people know is how you and I got connected, and it was through our mutual friend Leah Jansen. And just a shout
Yeah,
out to
she's a
Leah.
great girl.
Yeah, most people have a bucket list item on their, things on their bucket list they want to go see. I have people on my bucket list now, and Leah is on my bucket list. One of these days, I'm going to show up uh,
Yeah,
and uh, and get to meet her because she's phenomenal what she's doing. Now, we're not going to talk about Leah on this podcast anymore, Leah. So don't
she
don't
is.
worry. But what she is doing and what she has done is phenomenal. So, uh, so
She's a great girl. She really.
So tell the listener a little bit, just your background. Uh, it's your sports background is thoroughly entrenched in baseball and still is. And the other day on our pre-call, we talked about the state of baseball a lot. We're not going to bore the viewers or the listeners with that, but tell the listener a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I'm the head baseball coach at Carnegie Mellon University, going into my 16th year, going into my 20th year as a general manager and professional baseball scout with the Global Scouting Bureau. Uh, both jobs are dream jobs for me, working for dream people. And I also do some things in boxing. I recently I've been doing a show here in Pittsburgh with two great guys, Luther Dupree and Smoking Jim Frazier. We've had a boxing show here for about 6 years. We've been picked up by the WBC Vive Television Network 24/7 channel. We're doing that. We're into our sixth show and growing, and that's been an unbelievable experience and a big break for us. Wrote a book. I do a lot of hitting lessons, private hitting lessons, camps, clinics. Have a podcast where I interview sports legends of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'm a co-host of the Pittsburgh Steelers pregame show, and I also co-host of something called Steel City Sports World, along with Smoke Jim Frazier, Luther Dupree. Do some speaking, part-time heart surgeon, and I'm kidding about that one. And then husband, I've been married to my wife Linda for 23 years, and I have a 20-year-old daughter who is a junior at Pitt, and she is in the color guard, squad leader, section leader, and anymore, pretty much, Tim, my prayers consist of thank you. I'm very blessed and grateful for the things that are happening in my life, and all is good here. And there's an old Italian saying, if you ever see a turtle on top of a fence post, he didn't get there alone. And had a great mom and dad who loved me and supported me. Again, great wife, great daughter, some great friends, and here I am
Yeah.
talking to you on your great show.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate it so much. So are you a Pittsburgh native? Is that where you grew up? And
Just
yeah.
outside of Pittsburgh, in a town called Swickley, Pennsylvania, about 13 miles outside of Pittsburgh. Not only am I a Swickley native, I live in the same house. This is the same house I grew up in. So I've been here for 56 years, going on 57 in October.
Wow. So change is not
Yeah.
in your future. So anyway, but
Uh, no, I've, it's funny because I was telling somebody the other day I've had some pro offers over the years to coach professionally and to be director of player personnel, GM, stuff like that. And I've turned them down because I love the stability that I have in my life. Having said that, and I also wanted my daughter to have stability just like I had. It was very important. I didn't want to live in this city for 2 years, that city in 1 year, that city for 6 months. I didn't want that. And then at the same time, although I like the stability and all and everything. Like I told you, I do a bunch of different things: baseball, boxing, media, print, speaking, lessons, camps, all kind of own a landscaping business. I do all kind of stuff. So stability, but yet have a diverse portfolio in the job
yeah.
market.
So my question is, what do you do in your spare time?
Somebody asked me a few years ago, what do I do for fun? And I
Yeah.
told them I enjoy spending time with my family. I do. I'm fortunate enough to play in some celebrity golf tournaments. But to be honest with you, I enjoy what I do. I spare time. I don't really have any spare. I love to read, but I enjoy the chase. As long as I get the target once in a while, as long as I get that carrot. But it hit me that day when I guess, what do you do for fun? I really do enjoy the chase of accomplishing things. Some people say, "Oh, you've done this or done that." I say, "Thank you," but I always think I can do more. Dan Marino, two quotes that I live by. Dan Marino always says, "You can do more. You can always do more." And Mario Andretti, who I have an autographed picture back of him, and he was also on my show. His famous quote is, "If you have everything under control, you're not going fast enough." So I just keep trying to accomplish things. I've been asked to work in a front office for a brand new 3-on-3 3v3 pro basketball league. I'm going to do that if it gets pulled off. But I enjoy the chase. I enjoy
Yeah.
accomplishing. I enjoy keeping the wolf away from the door financially, if you know what I mean. I want to make sure I can take care of my family, which is incredibly important to me. And that's fun for me, to be honest with you, as long
Yeah.
as I get to catch that carrot once in a while.
Yeah. And that's what we're all probably striving for. I know. Uh, so you
Yeah.
were the baseball coach at Carnegie Mellon for how many years? Uh,
Going on 16 years.
yeah, 16 years, and very successful there. Uh, did is that your experience there? Is that what drew you to write the book that we're going to talk about today? The lead from the heart up, not the neck up, and that title, man, it just resonated with me because of some things that I'm teaching right now at church. I'm teaching a Bible class having to do with the heart. And so when I saw the
Yeah.
title, it just kind of resonated with me. So is that where that came from?
Thank you. No, my mom. My mom used to say, matter of fact, obviously in this house, she always used to say, um, never speak from the neck up, speak from the heart up. In other words, mean what you say what you mean, be passionate, care about what you say. And so I turned that around, and it hit me about the way I coach and the way my players are with me. And in the book, the last part of the book, the first part of the book are some things that happened to me as an assistant coach, how I was treated, some mistakes that I've made as a head coach. And then I have a bunch of great questions that were given to me that I answered. And the last part of the book is about 27, 28 former players of mine that I said, "Hey, write what you want about me." And they wrote some unbelievably nice things to me, for me, about me. But the whole theme of the book, basically in a nutshell, is from what Dick Vermeil, the Super Bowl winning coach of the Rams, once said, that your players, or again, this is not just a baseball book. The book is titled "Lead from the Heart Up, Not the Neck Up: How to Create a Positive Winning Culture on the Field and in the Office." So really, it's for anything. But he said your players or your people won't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And my players know that I care for them, not just as players, but as people. And that's not always the case. And that's what I wanted to write this book. So people, and I've been told this one guy in particular is a businessman, CEO of this company, and he's a really nice guy. But he told me that he really didn't have a great relationship with his people. There wasn't a lot of good communication. He said, and it's really made me feel good. But I followed some steps in your book. He said, and I couldn't believe the success that I was having with that. We did well, but we even did better because your people are going to want to go through a wall for you if you show them that you care. And I've been so blessed at all the stops I've been. This is my 38th year of coaching, something like that. And I've had some unbelievable people that to coach. And there's a few of them that are my best friends. I mean, two Kaplak brothers are my best friends. Some other guys I'm very close to. And again, my dad used to say, you can get more bees with honey than you can with mustard. Now, having said that, does that mean that everything's nice and cookies and cream? No. And when you have to be upset and you have to discipline, you discipline. Simple as that.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be like a chameleon. Or I put it to you this way: when it's raining, you put an umbrella. When it's hot, you put on shorts. When it's cold, you put on a jacket. our relationship is going to depend on you. If you're a good guy, if you listen, you work hard, and we're going to communicate, everything's going to be good. If you go off the rails a little bit, I'm going to have to put you back on. So it isn't like I let them get away with murder. No. But I've been lucky. I've had good people, and we've had success with the way I'm doing it.
Yeah. I used to have a saying when I coached, people would always say, do you play favorites? And I say, yeah, I do. I play favorites because I play the people that show up every day, work hard, have good attitudes, and that's the people that, we want to be around. Unfortunately, not everybody that's a good athlete
Right.
shows up that way. So I want to back up. The first part of your book, it does talk about you share stories in there from leaders on how not to lead. What
Yeah.
did you learn? You don't have to name names, but what did you learn as a young coach that you took with you all the way to now, that you learned when you were young and you said, this is how I don't want to be because of this? What are some of those things?
I don't want somebody to write in their book someday, boy, Claudio treated me this way or treat me that way. I don't want them to think. I don't want to hurt anybody. And these coaches, their insecurities, I guess it would be their jealousy, whatever you want to label it. They, there's some stories in the book, and I didn't mention names because I'm not here to embarrass anybody. I'm not here to knock anybody. They did what they did, and maybe they feel justified in doing so, and that's fine. But I didn't deserve the way I was treated, but that's okay. But I learned how not to treat people, which I wasn't going to treat people that way anyway. But it just made it even more of a point. Treat people good, and if those guys would have treated me good, I would have gone through a wall for them. And instead, they didn't get the best of me as an assistant coach because I didn't want to be there because I was embarrassed. They embarrassed me. They did everything they could to throw grapes at my feet so I would slip. And they were established coaches, and I wasn't. I always knew as an assistant that you had your boundaries. I was never trying to get the big seat, and I know some really big names that have done that to people. They wanted that seat no matter what. They were going to get that seat. I wasn't like that as an assistant. I knew my job or my role and my place, to be honest with you. But I learned, don't be insecure, communicate, be good to people. And if, something that I have in my book, something I just hit me one day, if we all pull that, I say this to my family, I say it to my team. If we all pull the same rope at the same time, at the same direction for the same purpose, we're going to get a great result. And I learned to do that. And like I said, this is important to learn what to do. I've had a lot of positive role models as coaches: Jim Valvano, Doug Collins, John Calipari, Chuck Knox. I can go on and on. Rick Pitino. I can go on and on. Read about Vince Lombardi. Everybody read about Vince Lombardi. But so many guys have had impact on me, positive impact. But the guys who weren't so nice, they had just as much impact on me as those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we all have those people in our, in athletics, that we participate, we learn so much in athletics, but a lot of things that we do learn is watching people. I had one of those. I had a high school coach who I thought, one of these days, if I'm coaching, I do not want to be like him. And and I tried really hard. And it was what you said, how you treat people. And I tried really hard, to treat people like, if I was playing, how I'd want to be treated. Now, here's the question. Do we
Exactly.
do that? Do we do that every day? There's some days we show up and
Yes.
yeah, and we don't,
No, yeah,
so
that's a good question because we're human. And before I answer your question, I also have to, you mentioned your high school coach. My high school coach, Rich Woznicki, who unfortunately passed several years ago. I played for him for what, 4 years, and then I was his assistant coach. Then he slid me into being the head coach when I was 23 years old at my old high school at Quaker Valley. He was great with me. He believed in me. We were friends, but at the same time, if I made a mistake, for sure the coach would get on me, and that's the way I'm with my players. Okay, but and I've done that. I've had. It's funny because one time, this is a story in the book where Uh, I think these guys actually bought me a birthday cookie, okay, and they presented it to me after the game, right? And I was touched. The next day, one of the main guys who set that up, I had to get on him for something. So it isn't like, oh man, okay, he bought me a cookie, I'll let him go. No, he understood it. I understood it. We still have a great relationship to this day. But your question, do we do it every day? I mean, my good husband, a good father every day. You make mistakes all the time. We're human. As a coach, I try to be good to the players every day. And I think there's, like Hulk Hogan said, I have good days and great days. I think someday, I think I'm good to them. Someday I'm great with them. So I'm sure I mess up along the way. And if I do mess up, if I do, maybe, if you have a bad day and you say something, I'm very quick to, hey, come here a second. I'm not in the greatest mood today. I had an overcharge on a bill or whatever they can. I got my property taxes in today. Yeah, that upset me, so I apologize. And then we laugh about it and we move on.
Yeah, and that's the human side of us coming out, and I think it takes a really strong person to admit, when you're wrong, and we've all had to do that. And coaches sometimes, I think they feel like that, that weakens them a little bit. But I never have found that to be the case. So,
well, you mentioned that, and if it's okay, I'd like to tell one story from the book that I talk about a lot.
That's
It was
why we're
another
here.
birthday story. We okay, well, this one particular game, if we win this game, CMU hadn't had a winning season in over 40 years plus, right? And I my tenure there, we obviously we won some conference championships, so on and so forth. But the first year this one particular year, we had the chance to have the most wins ever at CMU, and it was very important to me that team got that number because they were a great group of guys. They were the first guys that I had, the first 4-year group, So we're going into this game. Man, if we win this game, we have the most wins ever at CMU. But the guys were saying, hey, it's coach's birthday. We want to win this game for him on his birthday. I wanted to win for them. They wanted to win for me. Okay. Well, we're down 8-0. I'm saying, they must really love me. We're down 8-0. But then I heard them say, hey, we got to win this game. We got to win this game. They made this big time comeback against a very good team. We tied up 8-8 last inning. I remember telling the kids, and I have something that a coach usually doesn't have time to do. And this story is in the book. I had time to think. Usually you don't have time to think. There was a pitching change. So I called my runner over and said, Brett, look, if the ball's hit, if you're the game-winning run, we have the meat of our order, leadoff hitter coming up, number 1, 2, and 3. Yes, there's 2 outs. We have some good hitters up. If the ball goes to left field, I'm going to send you because he doesn't have an arm, even though he's playing up. Little wet, little soggy out there, I'm sending you. Center field, I'm going to send you because you're going to get a good jump, 2 outs. If it goes to right field, stay put. I am not sending you. You hear what I said? Yeah, coach. I don't care where. If it's right field, you stay here. Listen to me. You got it. Yeah, coach. I said, Brett, don't mess this up. Coach, I got it. I promise. Okay. Well, my leadoff guy hits the ball where? To right field. What do? I send him. My emotion, I was all wound up. He got thrown out by so much, Tim, that the catcher had to go get him. He had to go get him, right? So I said to the team as they were running out of the dugout, I said, hey, guys, get me out of this because I messed up. Get me out of this. Don't worry, coach. We'll get him. We'll get him. Well, Tim, we didn't get him. We lost 9-8 in extra innings. So I remember as is practice, at the end of a game, we go down to the foul lines and we have our post-game talk. So usually I run down. Well, this time I walk down and there's my team waiting for me. And it seemed like 3 miles away, right? I'm walking and I'm thinking, and I always wore sunglasses when I coached. And I remember putting my hands on my knees, looking at the ground, and my sunglasses were catching my tears. I was in tears. These guys made such a comeback. They poured their heart and soul, and I messed up. I told them, hey, you guys gave it everything you could, and I blew it for you. I'm sorry. And that's all I could say was, I'm sorry. Then I didn't look up, but I knew it was my pitcher. He said, Coach, if I would have pitched better, we would have won the game. My catcher said, Coach, if I'd have gotten that hit with the bases loaded in the 3rd inning, we'd have won the game. My shortstop said, if I didn't make that error, coach, we'd have won the game. My center fielder said, if I'd have got to that ball, we'd have won the game. They were blaming themselves. Why am I telling the story? Yes, I made a mistake. I admitted it. Terrific. But if I was bad with these guys, Tim, if I'd have been a tough guy with them or a hard guy with them or mean or distant or cold, while I was in tears holding my knee like this and my glasses catching my tears, you know, they may not have said it verbally, but they said to themselves, good for him. Now he knows what it's like to mess up. When he got on us, we're not going to get on him, but now karma, he knows what it's like. But no, I've treated them well. When they made a mistake, I didn't get on them. We corrected it. I didn't make them run laps after a game, which is, if that's your practice, that's fine. I don't punish. Let's fix, you know? And
Yeah.
so you talk about mistakes. Yeah, I made plenty of mistakes. And when I do, I say, hey, I messed up. That's not the first time I made a mistake or the last time. And that's why I tell leaders, if one of your people, whether it's a worker, a player, whatever, if they messed up, fix it. Don't just pound them and get on them and embarrass them, because you're going to make a mistake too. And how do you want them to treat you? How do you want to be looked at?
Yeah. So that day that happened, you probably can remember this. If you're like most coaches, you remember things better than most people. My wife looks at me sometimes. She says, I don't know how you remember those things, but we just do. You went home that night feeling
Yeah.
it didn't matter that they had your back. You still felt bad about it. So you had to walk in the door. Your wife, you had to go home. Uh, you had to
Yeah.
handle paying the bills. You had to handle life. How did you feel the next morning when you got up?
Greg Norman, who's my favorite golfer and favorite businessman, always uses the word compartmentalize. And another quote that I remember, I'm sure you remember World B. Free, Lloyd Free, the basketball player from the Philadelphia 76ers and the
Yep.
Clippers. They asked him what was his best attribute as a basketball player, as a shooter. He said, a lousy memory. And I try to, turn the page. Okay. And okay, we lost. Okay. Like, for example, you hear a lot of people say they bring the loss home. I don't do that. At least I don't think I do that. You have to ask my wife. I mean, yeah, I'll come home drained, but
Yeah.
it isn't like I don't talk to anybody or I lock myself in a room or, no, I put things in perspective. Okay. Like, for example, that game, I messed up. I felt down about it. But I handled whatever it is I had to handle. Still was nice to my family and all that kind of stuff. So from what I remember, I was there was a loss years ago that we were playing a team that beat us every year in Florida, a non-conference game. And this year was my best team, and we were winning 7-0 with my best pitcher on the mound, and we were winning 7-1, 7-2, 7-4, 7-6, and we lost 8-7. And when I went to the hotel, very down, didn't go eat, nothing. That game, I remember locking myself up in a room and saying, "Did I make the right decision?" I let the guys, and nobody said anything to me. But then it hit me, I want to go down with my best guy, because my best pitcher at 60%, and this isn't a knock towards anybody, it's just the way it is. My best pitcher is 60%. I had more confidence and trust in him, which was earned, than my bullpen at 100%. That's one of the things that bothers me about Major League Baseball today. You have a starting pitcher who's got a one hitter going, and you take him out, like in the World Series last year. Blake Snell, they take him out. They had no business taking him out, but I left him in. So then it isn't that I justified it or convinced myself. I separated myself from the emotional part of it and said,
Yeah.
would you do that same move again? I said, yeah, I would. So then I was okay with it. But I remember taking that loss pretty hard.
Yeah. I've got some questions, specific coaching questions I'm going to ask, because I've got some coaching friends that I'll share this with, and I want them to hear it from you. Um, and one of the questions that I have is, how do you treat coaching from a standpoint of life and death? Do you understand the question?
Great, question as far as perspective. I look at it like this, and that's a great question. I've never been asked that before. As wonderful of a life as I'm having, as wonderful of a life as I've had, I've also been through hell. Okay. And I'll give you a story. Herm Edwards, the great, if I
Hmm.
had a son, there's only one place I would send him, and that's Arizona State for Herm
Yeah.
Edwards. Love Herm Edwards. Not only forget about his X and O's, but the type of person he is. And you know damn well your son's going to be a better person when he leaves that program. But
Hmm.
anyway, when his father, who he was very close with, was killed in an auto accident, and he said after that, nothing's going to shake me. Nothing's going to shake me. A loss, nothing. So the hell that I went through with my mom being sick and passing away in my arms, the hell that I went through with my dad being sick and passing away. And I was extremely close to both my parents. I had the best parents in the world. Um, when you lose a game, uh, I put it in perspective. I mean, I just do. I mean, I want to win more than anybody. And my guys would at the end of a game, like before a game, my wife and I say, yeah, we'll go eat after the game. Sometimes, Tim, I'm so drained, I can't even get from the bench to my car. Or to the bus. I mean, I'm drained. Vince Lombardi said the greatest feeling in the world is to lie exhausted in victory. The second greatest feeling in the world is to lie exhausted in defeat. I pour my heart and soul out. I pace. I'm demonstrative. But at the same time, I also know that, hey, my wife's healthy. My daughter's healthy. We have a nice life. That doesn't mean that I don't want to win. Doesn't mean we're not going to work hard. Doesn't mean that I
Right.
don't care. You just put things in perspective. The worst day on a baseball
Yeah.
field is nowhere near as bad as my mom passing in my arms. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So you put
Yeah.
things in perspective. That's the way I do it with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
I don't know if that answered your question. Hopefully, it
yeah,
did.
it does. And I'll just add to it. I think we have to make sure that we understand that there's a bigger picture out there than a baseball game, or there's a bigger picture than, and what you said earlier is probably the guys that you have coached, they remember you. They don't necessarily remember the wins and the losses. And I think that's even a bigger,
It's funny you said that.
that's a bigger picture. I think that people
Yeah,
need to understand. Yeah.
yeah, very true. And that's something that I was so touched by in the book when they wrote. They didn't say, "Hey, he helped me hit a fastball better," or "He helped me feel better." Hopefully, I did. But they talked about the lessons, things that happened to me in my life that I told them about, or advice that they asked me about, or the time when I when I there's a I don't have to tell. I don't want to go into all the stories, not unless you want me to later, but just the moments that we shared, or when they were down, hopefully I picked them up, or they tease about all my quotes, but they remember them. They remember them. One time we had a team, we had a great group of guys, but when you have a short season, Tim, as you know, you don't have time to lose games. You have to get hot right away. So this was one of our best teams. We got off to a bad start. So I remember telling them, I said, look, in order to make the playoffs, we have to win 8 games in a row. 8 games in a row. And the guys looked at me and said, how are we going to do that? I said, well, the young boy asked the old man, how do you achieve success in life? The old man said, by eating an elephant. The young boy said, how do you eat an elephant? The old man said, one bite at a time. So I said, we'll win one game, then we'll win the second game, win the third game. And then when we would break a huddle, I didn't tell them to say this. They did it. They said the word elephants. Usually say win or your team name or whatever, right? They said elephants. People laughed, but I said, this is a special team. Now, we didn't win 8 in a row. We won like 5, but that's not the point. So they'll remember things like that. And then one of my players, I was talking to him a few months ago, and we were talking about this or talking about that. And he mentioned, hey, because I said, I got this to do. I got this going on. I got to promote the book. I got practice. I got lessons. I got TV shows. I got play. He said, coach, you'll do it one bite at a time. And the thing that just I absolutely love is when my players go through something at work or in their family life now. I remember what you said, coach. And I cannot tell you, Tim, how much that means to me. Not that, hey, we hit a fastball better because your
Yeah.
technique that you teach, whatever. No, they handled a situation that I tell them about, or that I went through and how I dealt with it. And again, Jim Valvano, who had such impact in my life and was a friend, he said that his favorite word in the English dictionary was the word impact. And it's so many people have had impact in my life. So many, Tim. Obviously, my parents being number one and two, or number one. But I would love to have impact on people, and I like to think that I have with my
Yeah.
players.
Yeah. What is the what is the number one thing that you would tell a young coach getting into the business, just starting out? Uh, what's the number one thing? I think I probably know just from what you've said so far, but what advice do you give a young guy or girl going into the coaching business, and maybe even someone who gets their first job in whatever business they're in? What's the number one thing you'd tell them to do?
Number 1A, number 1B, number 1C. Be yourself, work incredibly hard. Um, and also, and I don't, this may come off bad, I hope it doesn't, but you do want, if you do have aspirations to go further, you do want people to know you're alive. And there's an old saying that I never forget, I read on a sugar packet, which I still have. And the sugar packet says, "He who has a thing to sell and goes and whispers in a well is not apt to get the dollars as he who climbs a tree and hollers." So promote, but at the same time, I'm not saying overstep your boundaries or anything like that. But I
Yeah.
say be yourself, work hard, pull that same rope as everybody else, and just be never think that you're good enough. I guess I've been in the business for 38 years, and I'm still trying to learn. Still, I have a notebook that I have. It's this thick, and not so much now because I don't get too much out of the announcers now. But with Jim Palmer, Jim Rooker, Joe Morgan, when those guys were announcing, I have a notebook full of their baseball things, and I've been fortunate to know a lot of former baseball players and from the 70s. And I always asked them questions and took notes. So
Yeah.
be passionate, work hard, be yourself. Just because everybody else is saying to do something, if 50,000 people say a stupid thing, it's still a stupid thing. Do your thing, learn as much as you can. And the other thing, too, the number one thing is if you do have goals to go further in your career, don't give up. I know that's cliche, but I have 100 and some odd rejection letters, Tim, that thank you for your interest in the Dodgers, but the position you are currently applying for right now is already being filled. We will keep your name on file. All the best in baseball. Boom, right? It was the same pad letter until one guy gave me a break. I mean, I was coaching, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was to be a professional baseball. James Gamble of the Global Scouting Bureau gave me the opportunity, and I ran with it. Gale Sayers, the great running back, Hall of Fame running back, used to say, very famous quote, "Give me 18 inches and I'll run to daylight." In other words, just give him that little hole and he'll take off. All I needed was somebody to give me the opportunity, and I knew I would take off. So to young coaches, again, be yourself, work hard, be passionate, promote yourself. I know that sounds bad. But let people know that you do have aspirations to go and talk to your assistant, talk to your head coach about it, so he doesn't think you're trying to backstab. And also, um, uh, don't give up because you're going to get a lot of no's. People sometimes, like Jim Valvano again, they used to say he was an overnight sensation. He said, "Yeah, it took me 20 years to be an overnight sensation."
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of rejections, a lot of door slams, and you got to get used to it. And Italians have a saying: you get knocked down 6 times, get up 7, and keep going at it, until finally you get that break, and then you have to run with it.
Yeah. What's the number one thing that you see going around and working with young kids today? I know you had a hitting clinic before you came on here today, but what's the number one thing, or two things, or three things maybe that you see that parents are doing that you wish that you could get them in a room and say, quit doing that?
Go to the right people. If you have to get a knee operation, don't go to a kidney
Eye
doctor.
doctor.
You
Yeah.
know, um, yeah, right. But the thing is, and again, this may come off bad, but hitting is the worst taught thing in sports by far, and from the pro level, and it trickles on down. So I would go to the right people. Number two, let them have fun. Let them enjoy the game. Don't put so much pressure on them that if they fail, you're disappointed in them or mad at them. Support them and encourage them. Um, that's the big. My parents allowed me one time. I'll never forget it. And I was probably in my 30s. I was just walking from a Starbucks, and I don't know why it hit me, but it hit me. I said, "Boy, I used to love the old American Basketball Association. Boy, I used to love watching the NBA. Boy, I used to love watching professional wrestling. I used to love watching baseball constantly." And it hit me. My parents allowed, and I used to love Little League. My parents allowed me to. They didn't say, "No, you can't do this, you can't do that," or when you play, no, let them enjoy. Now, I don't mean clowning around, goofing off. I don't mean that. Let them enjoy the game. So I would tell parents, let them enjoy the game. Like one time I was at this open house I was invited to. This guy comes over to me. He's, Coach, can I talk to you? I said, "Sure." My son is a stud and a half. He said he can run, he can throw, he can switch hit. And I've never seen anybody switch hit like this. I mean, he has power from both ways. Oh, great. And I don't know why, but I said, "How old is he?" He said, 8. I said, "Okay, he's 8 years old." Okay. And there's another guy that last week is telling me about his grandson. His grandson's the greatest player of all time. And then you can see that the kid, I don't know if he really wants to do it or whatever the case is. So to answer your question, let them have fun, be supportive. And that means more than just buying them the glove and the bat and the shoes. Let them enjoy themselves. Let them have fun. Not clowning around fun. Let them enjoy the game. Because then if they enjoy it, they're not going to look at the watch. So, "Oh,
Yep.
man, I got a game today. I don't want to go." Or if I strike out, my parents are going to get mad at me. No, so I let them enjoy the game.
Yep. I used to, um, I used to tell people all the time when I was coaching that one of the great things about coaching was that every day was different. That you never really
Yeah,
knew,
that's for sure.
especially when I was in high school coaching. You coaching high school kids, it was a completely different animal. And then when I got to coaching girls, uh, it was really different. No, nothing against them. Before I get anybody comes on here and says he didn't like coaching girls, that's where I had my most success. But one of the things I was going to ask you, and this always comes up, people ask me this question. You have a kid who's 8, 9, 10 years old, and I have one in particular that I'm thinking of, and it's obvious he has some talent, but
Right.
you're the parents walk up to you and say, "How do I keep him from burning out?" Or "When do I teach him how to throw a curveball?" Or "How do I, what's been your answer to those questions? Because I know you get them.
I do. And again, I look at my parents. They never told me to play, not to. They let me do my thing. Play other sports. Go have fun. What I used to do in this house, upstairs in my old room, which is now my daughter's room, I drew a fence. My parents weren't too crazy about it. My mom especially. I drew a fence, and I would get an old car lighter and tape it, and I'd throw it up in the air, and I'd hit it. I'd hit it right, and then I would pitch from the doorway to the wall. And then I would do a football thing, and I was always throwing or catching. I'd go outside my backyard, and I wanted to do it, but if maybe my parents, okay, we have to do a lesson at 3 o'clock and then go to this program, workout at 4 o'clock, and then it becomes almost like a job. Now I do a lot of hitting lessons, and in the wintertime I do them from January to indoors, January to let's say end of no February to March, end of March. People say, "Why don't you do it in December?" Because then these kids are going to get burned out. If they want to do it, that's fine. But if you make them do it in an organized setting, so they want to do other things. They want to be with their friends. Or I'm not an advocate of just staring in front of a TV and playing video games. But let them play other sports. Let them enjoy being a kid. Let them enjoy basketball, baseball, soccer, football, lacrosse, hockey, whatever it is. And that's what my parents let me do. Even though I focused on baseball, obviously, but I enjoyed playing football with my friends and basketball. I played. So that's what I would tell them. I mean, as far as avoiding burnout, that's very important because if you make them go every Saturday at 4 o'clock, again, I do lessons. I'm glad I do it. there has to come a time where my dad used to say, always leave them wanting more. The old vaudeville saying, always leave them wanting more. Pete Maravich, my favorite basketball player, his dad wouldn't let Pete touch a ball for years because he wanted him to want it. He wanted him to want it. Then once he allowed him to do it, that was into that. Pete was, but you leave it to the kid. If the kid wants to do it, let him do it. That's a good
Yeah.
thing. But if he doesn't really want to do it, if he wants to play, if it's in the summer he wants to play baseball, fine. I mean, in the winter he wants to play basketball, let him do it. Let him have
Yeah.
fun with it.
Yeah. One of the people I'm going to get back to your book because I want to talk to you about the heart. Because I think a lot of times we think everything is because of physical talent. If you have physical talent, you're going to be successful. If you don't have physical talent, you're not going to be successful. But one of the people I know you interviewed on your podcast that I really have become a fan of is Sid Bream. And
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, Sid is one of those guys that, I listened to that podcast this morning and did not know, but he's a chaplain at or was during that podcast. He's a
yeah.
chaplain. But Sid, remembering Sid play, uh, I don't know that he was the most talented, uh, you know, player. He played for two or three different teams, but so how do you know if a kid is playing with his heart and not his head, or is that not even the right question to ask? And how do you teach that, or can you teach that?
Good. Again, excellent question. Um, it didn't take long for you to see that Sid Bream was one of those guys who played hard. Pete Rose, it didn't take you long to see, or one of my best friends, his name is Vinny Paz. Vinny Pazienza, a former 5-time world champion boxer, who was talented. He gets credit. They say he was extremely talented. But Vinny, even when he was losing in a fight and he was cut and bloodied, he kept coming. He kept fighting. When he got into a terrible car accident in 1991, he was paralyzed for a couple of days. And he said, I'm going to fight against it. Vinny, and there's a movie made of his life, Bleed for This. And you can go on YouTube and see Vinny Paz, Vinnypaz, and you'll see he has halo strapped to his head, screwed into his head. And he was still training. He wasn't supposed to move, let alone train. That's when you see this guy has heart, and he's bleeding. He keeps coming, keeps coming. If somebody's failing, but they keep coming, and they get knocked down, but they keep fighting. They may not have the best, maybe the most fluidity and the most athleticism, okay, but they want it. They get knocked down 6 times, they get up 7 times. They stay a little longer, they come a little earlier. Okay, now can you teach it? You can chip away at it if it's there. I'm big on communicating. If somebody's kind of dogging it a little bit, okay, come here. What's going on here? You're not giving 100%. Is there something wrong? Is there something bother you? Sometimes there is. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes maybe a kid is just a dog, okay, and then he'll kind of weed himself out, okay. To try to teach it, it can be. I mean, people say you can't motivate other people. I like to think I can. Um, but then you have to keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. So some people you do have to keep at it, and then you'll know the ones who you can get to. If you're talking to, like for example, right now, Tim, if you're talking to me, asking me questions, and I'm looking around or I'm disappearing from the screen or whatever it is, hey, Claudio's not into this, and then we'll go into
Yeah.
break. Say, Claudio, you know what? Can you kind of look into the camera? Can you kind of focus on me? Yeah, Tim. All right, no problem. Then the next question, and I'm back like this. I'm looking around. Then you know what? Hey, Claudio, let's cut the interview. Thank you. See you later. But again, you can make somebody aware. Hey, you're dogging a little bit. Let's turn another quote that I use all the time. Turn it up a little bit. And from the outset, I tell my teams right away. I have 2 rules: never disrespect me or the team. Number 2, care. That's it. Care for this
Yeah.
program. Whatever comes under
Yeah.
that umbrella, care. And if
Yeah.
and if you're not going to be that way, if you aren't like one time, this one kid at CMU years ago, as I said, I'm very demonstrative, I'm very passionate when I coach. I give it everything I have. And the player comes up to me and says, Coach, relax. He said, it's no big deal. If we win, I said, Ryan, if that's the way you feel, then this isn't the team and I'm not the coach for you. Another Jim Valvano quote. He said, look, what is it, 30 minutes for college basketball, I believe? He said, if
Mm-hmm.
you're playing, or 40 minutes, whatever, when you're playing, those 40 minutes, that should be the most important thing in your life because that's all that you're doing. But as soon as it's over, you have to realize how unimportant you just did was, and you go on with your life.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I try to tell people while you're there, give me everything you have. As soon as it's over, do your thing. But to make somebody, to give somebody heart that doesn't have it, I'm not going to say it can't happen because it can. A little bit harder and maybe fewer and far between. But that's a great
You
question.
mentioned somebody while ago. Yes, you mentioned somebody a while ago, and I know you actually, I guess you have a show with him that I think demonstrated maybe not having the most talent, but having the biggest heart was Joe Frazier. Now, if you put Joe
Well,
Frazier
no,
and Muhammad
on
Ali,
my show, that's right. That's smoking Jim Frazier. Yeah, Joe Frazier, the
oh,
boxer. No, I didn't have the pleasure of meeting him, but I'm sorry.
okay. I thought you said
Yeah.
Joe Frazier, and I'm thinking, wow, I didn't know that. Well, anyway,
No.
let's talk about Joe Frazier though. If you put Joe Frazier
Okay.
and Muhammad Ali in the same square, in the same boxing ring, and you put them up there and you just let them go for like 5 minutes, and you said, okay, I want you to pick the guy with the most talent. The guy with the most talent is going to win. No, 9 times out of 10, people are going to say it's Muhammad Ali because he's quick, he's agile, he moves
Right.
around good. And Joe Frazier just comes at you like a bull in a china closet. But Joe Frazier was very successful. I mean, he really was very successful because
Very.
he had a lot of heart, you know. So I kind of look at Joe Frazier like the Rocky
It's
movies.
funny you mentioned that. Well, it's funny you say that because today we taped one of our boxing shows and we did a fantasy fight between Muhammad Ali and Rocky Marciano. And obviously, Muhammad Ali was beautiful to watch. He really did float on his feet, flick the jab. Where Rocky Marciano and Joe Frazier, because we talked about Joe Frazier, they came at you. You could do whatever you want. You could beat those guys with a bat, and they're going to keep coming at you. They weren't as pretty to watch as a Muhammad Ali or a Sugar Ray Leonard. They weren't dancers, and they were sluggers. They had their athleticism too. Don't get me wrong, but they came at you. They had that determination. That not that Muhammad didn't, because obviously Muhammad Ali did have determination, but when you have guys, and that was again Marciano in this house. That's all it was talked about was Rocky Marciano. My dad was a huge Rocky Marciano fan, being Italian, obviously. But Rocky came at you. He was determined. He 25 years old when he first started boxing. He wanted to be world champion. He wanted to make money. He wanted to do what he wanted to do what he did, and he just went after it. He was going to be relentless. He was going to be. He worked harder than anybody. He used to box. I forget how many sparring rounds. Maybe 100 some odd, 150 sparring rounds, where everybody else was maybe doing 30. Okay. Then 3-minute rounds, Rocky would do 5-minute rounds. He would run in dress shoes. He would hit a 500-pound heavy bag. He made training harder than the fights. Why? Determination. A very famous fight against Ezra Charles, Rocky had a very rare cut. Never has this cut ever been seen before or since, but his nose was split, just split open. And he was bleeding like crazy. And the ref said, we're going to stop this fight. He said, no, give me one more round. He said, Rocky, that's all I can give you, one round, or else you're going to bleed, to death. Rocky went out there and beat a Hall of Fame boxer, Ezra Charles, because he turned it up. He said, I got to get this guy now. That's determination. That's heart. Vinny
Yeah.
Paz fought Dana Rosenblatt in 1996. Vinny was losing the fight about 3 rounds, and his eye was puffy. And it was a big rivalry, and Rosenblatt was getting very cocky and arrogant. I think it was the 5th round, I believe, maybe. Vinny lands a big shot, knocks him out. That's heart. Life, you're not always going to be the front runner in life. You're going to be, it just doesn't work that way. If you are, that's terrific. But you have to have that button in you, that dial, turn it up. Now it's time to turn it up.
Yeah. I
Very
think it was
important.
Mike Tyson who said, everybody has a plan until you get hit right between the eyes. And then, then they don't have a
Until I hit
plan.
him, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's so true in life. We think we have it figured out and then something happens, but uh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So I have a question. I've had people tell me that they're afraid their kid won't get noticed. uh, that they want him to play every summer league that he can. They want him to go off and play. They want to make sure he's going to get noticed. So my question is it timing or is it talent?
Both, both.
Yeah. I,
Um, Jim Rooker, the former pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, when he was in high school, a baseball scout was there to look at somebody else. They saw Jim pitch. Rest is history.
yeah.
But you have to have talent too. When you get that opportunity, when you get the when you are presented with an opportunity, or if there's somebody in attendance that you have to impress, you have to impress. It's as simple as that. You can't afford. I had 3 pro tryouts. 2 of them I was injured. The third one I was completely healthy, worked my tail off, ran with ankle weights, hit like crazy. My dad would hit me fly balls. I'd go to my old elementary school, get a lacrosse ball, throw it against the wall, and I would place pebbles on the asphalt so I could work on my glove reaction. I was ready to go. Went to the tryout. Long story short, totally bombed. I picked a bad day to have a bad day. Okay, so timing is important. But at the same time, for kids, if you're going to go to an event, a tryout or a showcase, whichever company or school, make sure that you're performing in front of the right people. You're paying a good chunk of change. Matter of fact, there was a camp a couple days ago, whatever. I won't go into specifics. I wasn't there. I was told about this camp. $200, $275 if you play multiple positions, but there was no evaluations. I mean, and there was a few people evaluating, but they weren't good evaluators. So what am I paying this money for? Okay, just like everything else, there's good and bad. There's good companies, there's bad companies. The company I'm with, Global Scouting Bureau, we used to run trial camps throughout the country, without question, and we have the track record to prove all the players that we've signed and placed, college, pro. Look us up, okay? But My Time Sports, ProTrials.com, Global Scouting Bureau, we've done the work. A lot of these places, a lot of these companies, just do your homework, do your due diligence. Make sure I give parents credit for spending their hard-earned money to not only go to the camp, but to take the young man or the young lady to these camps, stay at hotels, eat, rent a cars, fly. Make sure you're going to the right things. Ask questions. Where does this information go? Who's evaluating me? Is it just some kid with a crew cut and a backpack and the sunglasses on his hat with a bad attitude? Or is it somebody who has a track record of signing people or placing people?
Yeah.
Do your due
How,
diligence. It's
yeah.
easy now. It's easy now.
Yeah. How soon should a parent start looking at taking their kids to like showcases or uh, things like that? How soon should they start doing that?
I get hired sometimes to be an independent evaluator. I was at a camp a couple of days ago from the Paramount Scouting Bureau. We had players there that were from ninth grade up. Um, so I think ninth grade is a nice start because coaches are starting to recruit their teams for a year or two ahead of time. Again, there's so many kids out there who want to get through that same door.
Yeah.
Go to these camps, get evaluated by the right people with good evaluations. It's good to go at ninth grade because this way you get that fear out of the way. And also, you know what? I can compete on this level. I can compete. I see that guy. I'm just as good as he is, and or maybe you aren't as good, and I need to work harder. So I say a good time is ninth grade, and then turn it up every year, and go to more camps, work even harder, get your name out there, email the coach, let him know you're alive. Hey, coach, I'm interested in coming to Carnegie Mellon University. I wanted to let you know, here's my stats, here's where I live, here's my school information. This way I'm made aware of them because there's so many kids out there. You'll hear people say, my son's good. He'll get noticed. Well, yeah, sometimes if he's a number 1 draft pick or if he's a Bryce Harper who everybody knows about or what have you. But, those are few and far between. Again, Gene Simmons, the lead guy from Kiss, says sometimes the mountain doesn't go to Muhammad. Muhammad has to go to the mountain. Or the old Fred Sanford on Sanford and Son sitcom, he told his son Lamont, sometimes opportunity doesn't always knock. So you have to call him up and invite him over. So again, go
Yeah.
after it. Do your due diligence, but go after it.
Yeah. You talk about in your book developing a culture that where people you lead will want to work harder. Okay. How do you do that? How do you get people to want to change, how to get better, how to make themselves better? I'm kind of in that arena a lot of times because I'm trying to get people to understand that they need to live their life a little better. And I've
Couple
kind of
stories,
yeah,
examples. Well, there was this one kid who was a little distant, a little cold with me, not with the players, but with me. We had a little bit of a situation during a game where I wanted to make a correction to him on pitching wise, and he didn't particularly like it so much, right? So I told him in a way, I said, look, I'm not going to make a big scene about this, but next time you behave this way, I'm going to blow up, and you're not going to like what I have to say. You're not going to like the way I say it. So don't make me do that. Okay, I'm here to help you out. And it's okay. We parted, and then I think a couple days later, I was talking about the Penguins. He's a Penguin fan. We start talking about the Penguins. Then we start talking about the Pirates. Then we had a common denominator. He let his guard down. He saw that I was a pretty good guy, and we got along fine. Everything was good. Another way how I do it. This happened twice in 1993 and in 2019. These two sets of guys came up to me in 93 and 19. They said, Coach, well, what time do you think practice will be over today? So it's going to be over at 8. Okay, why? What's up? Well, we bought tickets to a concert months ago, and the concert's tonight. Would you mind if we left at the practice starts at 6? Would you mind if we left about 7:00, 7:15? I said, what time's your concert start? 8. I said, no, leave now. Don't come to practice. And their eyes got big. I said, what do you mean? I said, don't come to practice. I said, look, and this again, 93 and 2019. I said, look, by the time you leave practice, let's say you leave at 7, you go to your dorms, you get cleaned up, or at one time, or their house, your dorm or your house, you go get cleaned up, go in your car, go pick up your friends, go to the arena, fight traffic, run it. You could get into an accident, or you're going to be rushing around. You're not going to enjoy the concert. You're not going to enjoy anything. And again, God forbid you get into an accident. Don't come to practice. That doesn't mean practice isn't important. Just do me a favor. Sneak in a few extra hits tomorrow, get a few extra laps in, a few extra throws, and it'll be fine. They appreciate those kids worked. Why did I do that? Number one, they deserved it because they came to practice. They were leaders. They gave me everything they have and then some. But you know what, Tim? They gave me even more. You know why? Because they said, man, yeah, he wants us to do well, but he wants us to go enjoy a concert. He doesn't want us to get into an accident. He wants us to enjoy not only the concert, but going there with our friends. Because you know what? I was 18, 19, 20, 21 myself. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
And they knew that I cared. Again, they won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you have that culture. Or if I've had players, who this one young man whose father and parents were in another country, and the father got sick. The kid was beside himself. Well, hey, I always tell him I'm a 3:00 in the morning friend. Okay, you call me a 3. It's easy to be a friend at 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, my phone's always on, and I was there for him. Or I have a story in the book where this kid, I was an assistant. He went to the head coach. He liked this girl. He said, Coach, I don't know how to approach her. And the coach says, it says on the door, head coach, head baseball coach, not head relationship coach. And the kid just sunk. And what would it have taken him to say, hey, look, I've had that issue too when I was growing up. There was this girl I liked and she dogged me, or whatever the case was. Make the kid, give him some advice, help him.
yeah,
Is it that hard to do? Apparently for that coach, that particular coach was the type of guy who brightened up a room by leaving it. Okay.
yeah,
He was just not a good guy. But I couldn't do that for somebody. So I developed that culture. Why can't I'm a big believer in having your cake and eat it too, Tim. Why can't we win games? Why can't we work hard? But why can't we get along? Why can't you come to me with an issue? And sometimes, hey, I may have a bad day and I go to practice and you pick me up too. Okay? We're all human. And as corny as it sounds, yeah, we're in this together. But I want a culture. I don't want my players to look at their watch and say, oh man, it's 6:00. I got to go see coach. Nor do I want to say, oh man, it's 6:00. I got to go see Tim. Okay. Why can't it be a positive culture for everyone? And that's what I tried to tell them at the beginning. And they know that I care. They know that I'm there for them, and it works. It works,
Yeah.
and they'll try even harder for you.
Yeah. So what would you tell a coach or a CEO of a company or a leader in a church or any person in a leadership position that comes up to you and say, how do I make myself more approachable? I want to become more approachable because I feel like that people won't bring their problems to me. They won't tell me what's going on in the company. So how do you tell them, or how do you help them become more approachable?
Great question and a great word. 1993, where it was and this is in the book. I think I start off with the book. There was a game, back and forth game. It was at Community College, Beaver County. It was a back and forth game. We win the game. Players would come up to me, congratulating me, shaking hands. Hey, coach, we won. Great job. And I'll never forget, I went to my office, I'm sitting down, and I said, why is it that these players like me? Why is it I'm 27, I'm not that much older than them? Or even when I was head coach at Quaker Valley, my old high school, I was 23. And these guys came up to me, coach, congratulations. They gave me a game ball, whatever. Why is it? And that's what led me to write the book. Why is it that these guys like me? Because I'm approachable and I care. Okay, the one guy I told you about, good guy, but he's not a very talkative guy. He's a tall guy, good father, good husband. But he's not a real, he's just not a big talker or whatever the case was. So he asked me the exact same question, but then he got it from the book. And that's communicate, Tim. Just go up to a guy and say, look, I'm not really, I'm not a big personality or whatever, but I want you to know that I'm there for you if you need something. And just talk, because all of us go through the same things. If it's 90 degrees out, Tim, we all got to deal with 90-degree weather. If it's pouring out there, we all got to deal with the rain. We all have problems. We all have good things. We've all had bad things happen to us. We've had family members that passed or that were bad to us. We've all gone through the same thing. Okay, so share your experiences. Just talk. Let your guard down. Okay,
Yeah.
and just tell people, look, here's who I am. My players know who I am. They know the hell I've been through. They know the good things I've been through. They know about my family, good and bad. Okay.
Yeah.
And I put it out there. Now, some people may be a little bit more guarded, and that's fine, but communicate. That's the big thing. To answer your question, how do people get more approachable? Communicate. Don't
Yeah.
just be some tough guy, or I'm the leader, I'm the boss. If I have to keep telling people I'm the coach, I'm the boss, I'm the CEO, then you know what? Maybe I don't have I'm not the leader I think I am. And again, my dad said, you're going to attract more bees with honey than you will with mustard. Let your guard down. Communicate.
Yeah. I've got two questions before we get off of here. And back in the summer, about July, I think, I had the privilege of interviewing the winningest basketball coach in the history of basketball. Now, you think about that a minute. A guy by the name of Gene Bess. He's a junior college basketball coach at Three Rivers Community College, not Three Rivers in Pennsylvania, but Three Rivers Community College in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And that's where I went to junior college. And I interviewed him, and he retired 2 years ago at 87. So you've got a ways to go yet, Claudio. You've got some years left
A
to
little
catch
bit,
up
yeah.
with him. Yeah.
Another
But
30 years, I hope.
I asked him this question because he is, he's coached and uh, started in 1971, retired in 2019. Uh, so he's seen a change. My question to you is, have kids changed? And if they have, how have they changed? And why do you think they have?
Another great question. There's an old saying in sports that the game has passed the coach by, right? We've all heard that. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily believe that the game has passed people by. I think people have passed people by. Um, I'll say this: I can only answer from my shoes. Uh, I've had great people to coach. Um, People are people. Have they changed? You'll hear them say, "Well, kids aren't as passionate," or whatever the case is. Well, maybe, I don't know, but I don't know how many, and I'm not patting myself on the back here. How many coaches do you know that if a player came up to them and say, "Hey, I got to go to a concert. Do you mind if I leave early?" And the coach said, "No, you leave now." Um, if I could have been a tough guy and said, and I know some people who would have said, "No, you leave at 7:30 or 5 to 8 just to prove a point." Okay, and those players may have listened, but you know what? They're going to be at practice, and they're at practice, but they're not going to be there. You understand? So I don't know if people change. I get. I mean, coaches need to change. I mean, people. You have to adjust. Okay, I'm not answering your question properly. It's almost like this: if you have a power hitting team, a bunch of 6'5" guys, you're not going to be a team that steals a lot of bases. Okay, if you have a bunch of guys who are maybe 5'8", 5'9", who are jackrabbits, you're not going to worry about hitting home runs. You steal a lot of bases. I don't like to put a blanket on everything, on anything. You handle everybody individually. Sometimes a kid may have a certain attitude, maybe even have a great home life. Okay, Larry Bird went to Indiana. His father and Bobby Knight was just not the coach for him at that time. Why? Larry Bird's dad just committed suicide. He needed a coach to be like a father type. Well, Bobby Knight wasn't going to be a father type. Isaiah Thomas, who had kind of a tough upbringing, went to Bobby Knight and loved Bobby Knight. Okay, so you can't treat everybody the same. You treat everybody equally, but you don't treat them the same. But if people change, if kids changed, some people might say that they're spoiled, and some people are, and then there's some people aren't. For
Yeah.
me to say that everybody has changed, all kids have changed, no. Has parenting changed? I mean, I'm sure parents are different from the 50s and the 60s than they are today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't want to brush it with a stroke. I treat everybody individually. I treat everybody equally, but not the same. And again, I gave those guys the day off from practice because they deserved it. Now, if they were mouthy with me, they wouldn't have been on the team to begin with. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't have taken it. But again, the game hasn't passed people by. People have. Vince Lombardi was always considered a tough, hard guy. Oh man! But if you listen to his players talk, they love that guy. To this day, they'll cry about talking about him passing away. Why? Because yeah, he was hard on them because he wanted them to be better. But then he was also very good to them as people. He was a good mentor. He was a good. He had impact on people. So again, have people changed? Yes and no. Everybody wants success. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to have fun. Everybody wants to achieve. Some people go after it harder than others. Um, Look, Tim, I just basically like this. Shakespeare said, "You tickle me, I laugh. You prick me, I bleed." If you're good with me, I'm going to be good with you. If you're not too good with me, I'm not going to be too good with you. I'll try to work. I had relatives who I adored. But the closer I got to them, the more they'd punch me. The closer I got to them, the more they'd punch me. Then finally, I said, "The heck with it, no more. That's it." You can only take so much. So I cut them off.
Yeah.
A player, I'll try. If they don't reciprocate, if they're not given, you know what? They're gone. So that's just the way I do it. When it's cold out, you put on a jacket. When it's hot, you put on shorts. Raining, put up an umbrella. Whatever the situation calls for, that's what you should do.
Yeah. All right. I got some. Give me your definition of success.
For me, it was making my parents proud. It was shutting up people who didn't want me to succeed, not didn't believe I would succeed, but didn't want me to achieve my goals. For my wife and daughter to be proud of me, for my daughter to have me as an inspiration to show her that she can achieve what she goes after, to have dreams and to go after them. For anybody who listens to me or knows my story, hey, if that guy can do it, I can do it. And I have a speech segment where I call Things Can Happen in Life. If we have time, I'll go through it. To me, that's success and having impact on people. Again, having your cake and eat it too. Me
Yeah.
achieving things, but like all my words back here, there's a story behind all of them. And there's a couple here that I received in 1988 that I presented to my mom when she was in a hospital bed. Was that success? Seeing her eyes light up was success. Um, we've lost games, like I told you on my birthday, and those players told me, "Hey, coach, no, it was my fault. It was my fault. It was my fault." That was success because it showed me that treating my players good was a good idea.
Yeah.
Again, I don't like to put a blanket on things or black and white. If you win, you're a success. If you lose, you're not. Uh, but again, making people that you care about proud, upsetting the people who don't want you to succeed. The best revenge is to live well, to have impact on people, to be able to provide for your family. And again, I always want more. That may sound greedy, but I always want to accomplish more. Whenever I write a signal, an autograph, keep accomplishing. So success isn't a destination. You achieve it, that's great. You win one championship, terrific. Let's win another. You win one coach of the year, terrific. Let's win another. You get in the Hall of Fame, let's get another.
Yeah. How do you
And
define?
at the end of the day, having I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, how do you define discipline? And uh, there's different forms of discipline. There's discipline when someone messes up. There's discipline when self-discipline. Uh, but how do you define discipline? And has your discipline changed over the years as far as how you discipline your players?
Good question again. Great questions. Chuck Daly from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, Hall of Fame basketball coach of Detroit Pistons, said that his biggest asset as a head coach was a lousy memory, poor eyesight, and bad hearing. So sometimes you can't see everything, you can't remember everything, and you can't keep you can't hear, see,
Yeah.
and remember everything. So I try to do that because everybody's gonna have a bad day. Now there are certain lines that you don't cross. Obviously, as I
Right.
said, I don't want to be. I cannot be disrespected. That's just how I am. So how do I handle it? Um, it depends. Again, for me to
Yeah.
say this is the way I would do it. It depends who it is, how it was done. Maybe again, I don't want to get mad at anybody. And I tell my players I don't want to discipline anybody. But there was this one player who was a great young man, and we're very close to this day. His girlfriend comes into town. He said, "Coach, I can't make the game tomorrow." I said, "Why?" "My girlfriend's coming to town." I said, "Bring her to the game like everybody else." "Well, she doesn't really want me to." And I mentioned this in the book. I said, "John, if you don't come to the game, I got to bench you. I got to suspend you." I didn't suspend him, Tim. He suspended himself. He didn't come to the
Yeah.
game. Now he
Yeah.
regrets it, and we're very close to this day. Um, Again, I didn't discipline you. You
Mhm.
you discipline yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't just wake up and say, "Hey, you're suspended." There was a reason why. Again, you tickle me, I laugh. You prick me, I bleed. He made me suspend him. Okay. Now, if he would have mouthed off or something like that, then it would have been more of a suspension. So it depends. It depends.
Yeah. All
But
right.
but
You
they
said,
will be again if they cross that line, if they do something, then I'm just not the type that's going to sit there and take it. That's just not in my DNA.
yeah. Well, also probably not in your DNA, and I know it's not. You're a passionate. You're an Italian. You said you don't like to get mad at anybody. Okay. So my question is, umpires. Are there any YouTube videos out there of Claudio uh, picking up bases or charging umpires or anything like that? Because if there is, I want to go to those because I can just imagine that those are pretty good.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I've never been thrown out of a game. I don't think. I haven't been thrown out of a game. Now, my players. There's this one particular umpire who's a good guy, and he's an okay umpire. But sometimes he gets me at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And
Don't
there was
they
this one
all?
particular game I'll never forget. Yeah, right. Yeah, but
Yeah.
he was getting on me about wearing a helmet at third base. My mind was in three different spots, right? And then I just lost it, and then I got a helmet. I threw my hat and the stuff like that, and I just snapped on him. And my players were like, "Uh oh, coach," so they
Yeah.
know what's going to set me off. And but I don't make a big scene and put the head on backwards and kick dirt. No, the umpires are. I've been an umpire a few times. I know how hard it is. The only time I'll get mad at an umpire is if he again disrespects me or gets mouthy with me. Then I'm not going to take it. Then I'm going to lose it. Okay,
Yeah.
if because I don't throw the first punch. I throw the second 30, as Billy Martin used to say. I'll question something respectfully. Now, if they get funny with me, then I go from 0 to 100 like that. But I don't pick up the bass and do stuff like that. I mean, I have gotten upset,
So
things like that, but I don't make a big scene now.
So let me get this straight for all those young coaches out there who think it's a rite of passion to get ejected from a game. I got kicked out of one. I can remember it. It was a game where my youngest son, was playing. Uh, we were in the playoffs. I was actually coaching first base. I was the high school principal. The head coach needed an assistant, so I came out and helped him. My son hits a line drive out to no. The other team hits a line drive out to right field. Our right fielder, comes in and kind of lunges for it and catches it. His sunglasses were up on his cap, and his sunglasses fell on the ground. The umpire thought he dropped the ball, called the runner safe, and I lost it. I kept, and finally
Yeah. Oh yeah.
here's the thing with me. I got plenty of technical fouls when I was coaching. I got better as I aged, but I never got a technical foul or never got told to shut up by an umpire for profanity. I never did. Never. That day
Right.
that I got kicked out, he made the famous, if you say another word, I'm going to have to run you. And I said, well, you might as well get ready because I'm going to have the last word on this one because you were wrong. Well, I was gone then. Here's what's funny about that one. In the audience that day was my mom and dad, who only watched
Oh,
me coach a handful of times because I'm in Oklahoma. They lived in Missouri. So they didn't get to watch me coach that often, especially in baseball. They came that day to watch Marcus, my youngest son, play. I happened to be coaching. So the next game, we won that game. The next day, the finals of district, I got to set out the next game because I'd gotten ejected. That's the rule. You set out a game in high school in Oklahoma.
right,
So
right.
the positive with that, and I always try to find a positive and a negative. The positive of that is I got to sit in a lawn chair by my dad watching my son play baseball that day. So that was the
Yeah, there you
positive.
go.
So anyway,
You know
all right,
what
I
though?
got
Like I said, I don't do that, but I don't make a big scene, and I try to tell them, hey, I'm trying to help you out, right? They don't like when I say that, but I
yeah,
got to tell you, Jim Valvano one time again, State was snapping on this referee. And referee said, next time you say something, you're out. He said, okay, can I get kicked out of this game for thinking something? The referee said no, and Jim said, I think you're terrible. He kicked
yeah,
him out, but
yeah, yeah. I heard Norm Stewart say the very very same thing. All right, here's $1 million question.
yeah,
Okay, and you are the
yes sir.
exact person to answer this question: wood bat versus
All right.
aluminum bat.
Well, if I'm on my team, I would like aluminum, and everybody else have the wooden. That's what I'd
And,
love to have.
and
But
why?
you know what? I still remember. What's that?
And why? Tell the listener
I'm sorry.
why.
Well,
Why?
aluminum, aluminum bat jumps. I mean, it jumps. It's just it does what it's supposed to do. The ball rockets off your bat. Now they've deadened them a little bit since the advent of the aluminum bat, especially not the advent, but especially in the late '80s, '90s when you hear that ting, 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 and the ball jumps off your bat. Now, as a fan, as a purist, when I was a little kid, especially when I listened to Pirates of Spring Training, you go that sound of wood, it's
Yep.
still a lot of wooden bats are beautiful bats, but I would like to go back to wooden for a lot of reasons, safety being one of them, because those balls are jumping off the bat, but they have deadened them a little bit. But I also understand, and I don't want to hear about price because the aluminum bats are crazy expensive, and the wooden bats, I don't see them breaking as much as they used to when we were kids.
Yeah.
Um, but I make a joke about I'd like our team to have wooden, aluminum, and the other team wooden. But again, the wooden bats you can get the aluminum bats you can get jammed, and it's still going to go
Yeah.
a
Well,
little
when
bit.
you're out scouting someone, how do you take into consideration their hitting? How are they going to transition from aluminum to wood? And if they're a good hitter with aluminum, are they going to be a good hitter with wood?
You look at their swings. Don't worry about the distance so much, and then you kind of make a thing. What do they call it? The eye test. If it goes 345 feet with the aluminum bat, it's probably going to go 320, something like that. The guy's a power hitter. It's still going to go, just not going to go as far. You take a look at their swing. If their mechanics are bad, you can get away with worse mechanics with aluminum bat. You can fly open and your bat drags. You can still get away with a double down a right field line. Then you say to yourself, wait a minute, wooden bat, it's going to be a pop-up. And it's also a mental thing. These guys are used to clubbing these balls, and all of a sudden, a wooden bat, like when we had the tryout camps, we had them use wooden bats. And these guys would take these massive cuts, and the ball, they'd stand there, I think it was a home run. Meanwhile, it was caught. Okay. So can you handle that mentality of, it's almost like somebody on steroids. When they're off the steroids, they lose confidence. Okay.
Yeah.
Same with wooden bat, aluminum bat. Aluminum bat, they use wooden. They don't hit the ball as far as hard. The ball doesn't rocket off. Okay. But of course, the wooden bats now are a lot different than they were when you and I were growing up, Tim. A lot different. There's more of a flex,
Yeah.
a little shine on them, which means a little lacquer. They're a little different. They're a little bit different. But as a fan, as a little kid, I like the old wooden bats.
Yeah, when you were a little kid and you broke a bat, did you ever take little penny nails and try to nail the bat back together and put black electrician's tape around it to keep that bat going a little bit longer?
My dad bought me a beautiful Rico Cardi bat, and about 300 yards from my house, he jammed me with a softball and I cracked it. I taped it. I was devastated. My mom bought me a John the Hammer Milner bat and a Mickey Mantle bat, which I still have. The Milner bat I used a lot, didn't crack the Mantle bat. I said, no way I'm going to use that. But that Rico Cardi bat, to this day, that was in 1974 that it cracked. I'm still bothered by it. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a beautiful bat. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how many wooden bats that I was given, because older kids knew I liked to play baseball, so they'd give me broken bats. And I remember going and watching the Cardinals one day, and I don't know how this happened, but I got a broken bat of a Lindy McDaniel, I think. And
the pitcher.
Yeah, the pitcher. And what was interesting about that, here's an interesting story. The same day that I got this broken bat from Lindy McDaniel, I saw him in church before the game. He was at the same building, and he didn't know me. He didn't know I was there. And we go to the game, and we're standing down by the dugout during batting practice. And I don't think he even took some cuts. He just had this wooden bat. He reached up there and handed it to me. And I looked at it like I'd just been given $1 million. And then I noticed that it was broke. But I took it. Right. I took it home and nailed it together, and and tried to use airplane glue on it. Got my black electrician's tape out and taped it. I think I used that bat for a year or two even, but I couldn't hit, so it wouldn't have mattered if I was
the good old days.
Yeah, it was the good old days, and I couldn't hit, so it didn't matter what bat I used. So yeah, I was so glad for the designated hitter. So, well, Claudio, I'm going to tell you, we've been doing this for an hour and 20 minutes, and we have hit we've hit every base, no pun intended. And I know that we've given the listener something to think about. You got a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, and you're using it to help people. And I think that's what we're here for. I think our purpose here on this earth is to help people, be of service to one another, and you're doing that. So I always end my podcast the same way, and I haven't even asked you how you take care of yourself, how how you do that, but we'll save that for another one. But but I always end the podcast same way. Final words of wisdom. You've given us so much, but if you had to leave one takeaway that you leave the listener with, what would it be?
Things can happen in life. I had a dream August 19th, 1973 of working in professional baseball with my first baseball game I went to. And, here I am. And there's nothing special about me other than I was persistent, had great parents, had a dream and a goal, and kept at it. Things can happen in life. And that story, August 19th, 1973, there was some players who were playing that day who were, I won't go into a long story, that are friends of mine, that I've been inducted into the same halls of fame with them, that I've signed. Juan Marichal, I signed his his nephew, Jim Rooker, is a good friend of mine. He pitched that day. Al Oliver and I have been inducted to the same Hall of Fame together. He was playing first base that day. If he'd have told me back then, hey, 8-year-old Claudio, these things are going to happen to you. You're crazy. I've met people that I grew up watching, Mario Andretti on my show, Jerry Cooney. Things can happen in life. And I'm blessed and I'm grateful. And to listen to those shows or to get my book, ClaudioReilsono.com. I hope you don't mind me plugging that. But
Nope.
to leave them with a message, things can happen in life. Trust me.
Yeah.
Magic can happen because it
I
happened to me.
appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate that, and we will put your website and a link
Okay.
to that in the show notes, and so
Thank you.
that'll be there. I highly encourage people to go to your website and look at your resume. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Not to say that uh, that we can do all the things, but it does show you that hard work pays off. And I just
And I'd
appreciate
love
you.
to have you on my show as well soon.
I'm,
And I'd
I'm
love to have you on my show as well soon.
well. I hate to say this, but anytime that anybody asks me to come on and talk, I can't say no. And people who know me
Me
understand.
neither. Me neither.
I
Me
would
neither.
love to do it. Just let me know, and we'll make that happen. Claudio, I
Got it.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Stay safe.
Thank
Continue to do what you're doing, and I look forward to talking to you again down the road. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you. And thank you to all your audience. Hope they enjoyed this as much as I did. Great questions. And thank you. Continued success. Thank you.
Thank you.